Hello and welcome to the first CP102 video for Lab 1. I'm going to be covering some of the material that we didn't get a chance to cover during the lab time that we had in the first week of labs. The first thing I want to call everybody's attention to is the fact that any of the computer labs on campus all have a one-card device that you can use to swipe to get in. So in the room BA113, where most of the labs are, where all the labs are, you'll be able to use the back entrance in order to get in. You just use your one card. You should always bring your one card with you wherever you go, and this works for all computer labs on campus. So some of the other room numbers you can use if there's no class going on, there's BA206 and BA207, which is upstairs in the Bricker Academic Building, also on the first floor of the Science Building, as well as other computer labs in the library and the Student Union Building and the Peters Building. We talked in lab about how there really is only two things you need to do, and that's in order to prepare for lab is to prepare for the quiz and prepare for the task that we have in SAM in each lab. So when you're at home, you were supposed to read the material in the lab content in My Learning Space. Then you'll complete the training in SAM, and we will also next week be talking more about the assignments that you'll find in the Dropbox in My Learning Space. Now, when you're doing SAM, the best browser to choose is either Internet Explorer or Firefox. Now, Firefox is the recommended browser for using SAM, and if you're on a Mac, you can use Safari or Firefox, but don't use Chrome because there are known issues with using Chrome and it will cause mistakes to happen. A couple of people have told me that they can't right-click, and some of them are Windows users, and if that's the case, then you'll need to make sure that your browser is up to date and that your version of Flash is up to date. So you might have to update your own version of Flash. If you're on a Mac, you will not be able to right-click during the trainings. It is a known issue between between Flash and Mac OS X operating system. We have looked at a little bit about the quizzes and the tasks that you're going to do in each lab. But then every couple of weeks there will be live assignments. So we will talk more about this in the second week of labs. So the live assignments are ones that you're going to do at home using Word, Excel, Word, Excel, and Access, and then there's an assignment in HTML, and the first assignment is actually in using Windows Explorer and a little bit about learning your way around Windows. So the assignments are worth 4% each, and you'll find them in the Dropbox in My Learning Space. So you'll go to the Dropbox when they become available, follow all the instructions there. There's a file you can download, and then you will complete the work and upload the assignment to your Dropbox in My Learning Space. Now you have to be careful. There is a Dropbox in SAM. Don't use it. We don't use it for anything, and I'm never going to mention it again. So don't put any assignments into the Dropbox on SAM. There is a number of tasks that you're going to be completing, and you should realize that you're also going to have your lowest task mark will be dropped. So whenever if you miss a task, if you miss a lab, then the lowest one will get dropped. But your lowest quiz does not get dropped, and they're worth a very small amount of your actual grade. They're actually worth 0.36% of your final grade because there's 11 of them. And your lowest assignment is not dropped because each of them are actually worth 4% each. We're not dropping any of those either. I've already talked in lab, I think, about using the Windows key. So Mac users should especially learn where the Windows key is. And there is another key on the keyboard that we'll learn about called the Home key. It has the word Home written on it. So the Windows key that you see in front of you is not the Home key, but it's used to access a number of different features and keyboard shortcuts. So I'm going to start by showing a couple of things in My Learning Space. So you should already be familiar with signing into My Learning Space, and you're in the CP102 course now, and there are some news items, so you can have some settings so that you receive an email notification whenever there's a new item posted here. So I do have the institution key. You'll need to sign into SAM if you haven't done so already. The institution key is listed here in the news items for My Learning Space. In lab this week, I showed you where the resources are. Under lab content, under content is where you'll find everything that you need for completing the labs. So make sure you check this material and make sure that before you go to the next lab, you read the material in that appropriate lab, Under the assessments tab, I'll show you a few things that we haven't got a chance to check in My Learning Space, and that was one of them called the grades area. So here in the grades area, you'll see all your marks for CP102. There's all the assignments at the top. Each assignment is worth 4%, so it says the weight achieved is 0 out of 4 because you haven't done anything yet. The quizzes are all listed here, so some of you might already have a mark under quizzes. You'll see that each quiz is worth 0.36% of your final mark, so all the quizzes in total is worth 4% of your final grade, which is that number right there. Then we have our lab tasks. Now the lab tasks are actually inside they're inside SAM. So because SAM and My Learning Space are two different systems, then every once in a while I will have to transfer the marks from SAM and put them into My Learning Space. So it's very crucial that you have your student ID number entered into SAM, into your account profile, so that I can transfer these grades. It doesn't happen automatically, and it won't happen right away. It has to happen every couple of weeks when I take the time to transfer the marks over. So you can see here that each of these tasks is showing up as 1.78% of your final mark, and you see that Access 2 is dropped, but the only reason it says dropped is because it's a 0, so it doesn't count any towards the weight of the task marks, but your lowest task mark will get dropped. If you complete Access Task 2, or maybe you have a different one, if you complete it, you get a mark higher than 0, then it will no longer be dropped. It will actually drop your lowest mark. So don't really pay much attention to what it says there when it says dropped, if it's not going to be your lowest. Then we will have your 2 HTML tasks, and in your very last lab, you'll have your final lab task, which will also be within SAM. You have your midterm marks and your final exam as well. Again, back in the assessments menu at the top of the screen, we're going to look at the Dropbox. And then Dropbox is where we'll find all of our assignments. So this is a little bit of we're going to do this in lab while you practice submitting an assignment. I'll make a practice window, make a practice Dropbox open for you. So you can see that assignment 1 doesn't open until January 20th, and it's not due until February 1st. So we have a bit of time. That means next Monday it'll become available, and people can start working on it, but you'll probably want to finish the first week of lab before you start the assignment. So you want to make sure that you know that you have to do the assignments in My Learning Space, and then they open every couple of weeks. And your final assignment is due April 5th, which is the very last week of classes. So it's at the end of the last week of classes. I'm going to click on Quizzes. When I look at the Quizzes section, there is a quiz called your ICT score that was covered in the Lab 1 material. Make sure you check that out, and then you have until January 31st to finish it, but please do it as soon as you can. And then there's the Lab 1 quiz. So if you were in Lab 1, but you didn't get a chance to do the quiz, it's now been made available for you. However, in the future, all lab quizzes have to be completed in lab at the time of your lab period, and you cannot do quizzes outside of lab. So although quizzes will have a password on it, and also the tasks have a password on it as well, so you can't do the quizzes and tasks unless you're in lab and receive the password. Now I want to take a minute to explain using the computers that are sitting in the lab. Now when you come into lab, if it doesn't turn on right away, then just make sure that the computer and the monitor are plugged in. So if you look under the monitor table, then you should be able to see where it gets plugged in. Just make sure that there are two things plugged in. One's your monitor and one's your computer. Sometimes students unplug the computers in their laptops in order to plug in their, they unplug the computers to plug in their laptops, and please don't do that in the lab because we need these labs to be working all the time. What we're going to do is I'll show you how to save files to your iDrive, and we'll show you that you can access your iDrive from home using net storage, which is also available from the My Laurier website. So the first thing to understand is that because you have a Novell account, when you log into the computers using your Novell account, it gives you access to your iDrive, and it also gives you access to print to any of the computer labs that are on campus. So we'll cover the iDrive first. Now down at the bottom of your computer screen in the lab, you might be able to see this icon that looks like a folder. And if I move my mouse over it, you should get a little tooltip that's called Windows Explorer. So you'll see that in the lab material for next week, you'll explore Windows Explorer in more detail. However, when I open Windows Explorer, you'll see a number of things. So first of all, there's well, I guess it's called a location bar up at the top. And when you have the C drive selected, actually if you have computer selected, then you'll see the different drives that are associated with your computer. So Windows computers have a C drive, and actually that's covered in the lab material for next week too. So you have this one here, which is a network location. This should be called your iDrive. So if I click on it, or if I put my mouse over it, you can see at the very end of this, after the word home, you can see the letter I, because this is the iDrive. If I look at my iDrive, I have a number of folders here. Yours is probably blank, but you want to create a new folder and call it CP102. So that's where you can save all of your work, because if you save your work to the C drive or the desktop on the computers in the lab, it'll become erased when you restart the machine. Now, once you have access to your iDrive, you've saved stuff to it. Oh, by the way, if you come into a lab, you sign into a computer. If you cannot see the iDrive, then you need to go to the ITS Student Services Help Desk so that they can help you get your iDrive back, because you want to probably save files to your iDrive when you're in the computer labs. In order to access from home, so that, first of all, when you save files to your iDrive, they're available no matter which computer you go to. You'll always have your iDrive with you. And then if it's saved to your iDrive, you can go to a website called NetStorage in order to open it up. Now, NetStorage is also available from your MyLaurier homepage. So if you look at the mylaurier.ca website and you scroll down, there's actually a section called NetStorage, which allows you to access your iDrive. So I'm going to click on it and show you what it looks like. It asks you for your username and password. That's your Novell username and your Novell password. And it sometimes takes a bit of a time to load. It does it on my machine at least. So that didn't work. I'm trying again in Internet Explorer, and you can see that it does ask you for your username and password in a slightly different way. That's just a browser thing. And you might have to wait for it to download things. So I was actually running into this problem last week. If this part doesn't work for you, I actually think it has a problem on campus, but it works better off campus. But once you click on NetStorage, it'll show you the rest of the files in your iDrive. There's actually a button up at the top where you can log out. There's also a button here called Text View. So if you're having trouble connecting to NetStorage, it'll switch to a text-only view, and now that it's loaded, you can see there's actually the iDrive, and you will have other network drives that you might have access to, so other courses will tell you to access things on different shared drives. So your iDrive is where your material is located, and when I click on it, you can see some of the folders that I had shown you under the Windows Explorer. So here's my CP102 folder, so you can click all this, and then you can just click on the files that you might need to download, and it has a little link for you to download them. So that's a little bit about NetStorage. Really, only try it if you really need to. And if you have trouble with NetStorage, feel free to contact the Student Help Desk. And that the Student Help Desk actually is in the concourse. So if you're in the concourse and you are over by the Starbucks, that's where the Starbucks is. It's in that area. Just turn around and look for the Computer Help Desk. I now want to just kind of end with one little quick tip on how to get around things with your computer. So one of the very important things to learn how to do on your computer is to learn how to get help on the programs that you're using. It can take a long time and can lead you in the wrong direction if you spend too much time looking for solutions on the internet or searching through Google. So it's important that you learn how to use the help feature that's available in almost all applications. So I'm going to show you the Windows Help feature, which is actually if you click the Start menu and I click Help and Support. You may not have noticed that before, but this help and support window allows you to access a number of things. There's some very good information here. I can make this a little smaller. There's a very good information here on what's new in Windows 7, getting started, and learning how to do very basic things or how to get started with your computer. So these are available to you, and I highly recommend you check them out. But here in the search feature, I can actually search something like the word security. And when I hit enter, there's the best 30 results, and there's a number of things that can help you. Oh, look, can I uninstall Windows 7? It'll give you some tips in those different things that you might want to learn about keeping your computer safe. So I'm going to close that for now. And I'm actually in PowerPoint right now, and you may know that the PowerPoint help is in the top right-hand corner with those little question mark. But almost all applications, if you press F1, it'll open the help system. So there I am, I'm in PowerPoint. Oh, there we go. So here's the help system within PowerPoint. And again, there's a way to search for things. So I can search on slideshows for running slideshows. Very important stuff, using the slideshow theme, how to broadcast to remote audiences, and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's how you get help in PowerPoint. Even when I'm within Word, I can press F1 and I'll get the help window to pop up. Might take a second or two to load. But here's the help window. And again, a lot of interesting, useful tips like getting started in Word and knowing where to go and being able to search for things like using the ruler in Microsoft Word, which is up at the top. So we're going to look at that. Well, you look at the help feature on your own. We're going to look at the ruler later on in lab. So being able to use F1 to get help works in almost all programs, including most Mac applications. So you can always press F1, and it does work on your web browser as well if you need help using your web browser. So that's it. Thanks again for paying attention for this lab, and I look forward to working with you in lab in the coming weeks. So have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll see you soon.